To have a copy of every book.
I wonder what those are from.
Oh, there was a list. Oh, well. We have them in this library, by the way. Our library. Okay, so let me get rid of him. And let me do some quick work on because I spend so much time on previous things like I'm doing right now, plus I focus primarily on the text because a lot of people have trouble reading the phenomenology, and I wanted to go through it a little bit to point out that it's more like a dynamic play of forces. He's doing exactly in his text as he's describing the world. And so it's a very different type of philosophy, very different type of reading than lots of other things, and that's why I like spending at least a little bit of time on that one paragraph even. But so you have self-consciousness, consciousness, sense certainty, perception, appearance, and the supersensible world. The for itself is the object of thought, the in itself is the subject of thought, the subject that's having the thought. And then you go through stages. For Hegel, you go through stages. Stoicism, for example, each of the stages are the philosophies that we've been going through. So Stoicism, skepticism, and that leads to the unhappy consciousness. The unhappy consciousness, and we'll see that when we talk about one of the followers of Hegel, because besides John Stuart Mill, we're going to hopefully cover today somewhat, we also will look at Søren Kierkegaard, who is the Danish philosopher, who really follows on after Hegel. And Søren Kierkegaard will take an aspect of Hegel's philosophy, the focus on the self, and go on with that, and we'll have existentialism. Karl Marx is the third one that we will look at as a follower of Hegel, and he ignores the individual self and focuses on the social characteristics, the for itself. And so you end up with a proponent. He supports the Communist Party, in fact is hired to write the Communist Manifesto along with Engels, and you end up with a philosophy that actually took root in Lenin's thinking and became then part of the Communist Revolution in 1917, starting in St. Petersburg, which notice afterwards was changed to Leningrad, and now it's back to St. Petersburg. But when Lenin arrived back to inspire the revolution in Russia and succeeded, one of his first tasks was to pull Russia out of World War I, which he did. And that allowed Germany to focus on just one side in the World War I. Lenin had been captured, by the way, by the Germans, and they released him on purpose so that he could try to start a revolution. God bless you.
Yeah, so they weakened the country.
Yeah, and it did, and it pulled them out of World War I. So we blame Marx for what Lenin did, and to some extent that's right. But of course, what Lenin did was Lenin Marxism. He had to change it, but we'll talk about that when we do Marx. So, famous statements that Hegel had made: the rational is the real, and the real is the rational. So what we think of as rational, we think of as real, and vice versa. But notice with Hegel, we have a social dialectic among us, among groups that go back and forth. perfect example of it is the election yesterday. What we saw in the places, Virginia, California, New York, New Jersey, they had Georgia, Mississippi, they had national elections yesterday, and it's being called a Democratic wave because the Democrats went up between 10 and 15 points almost in every instance. And as a result, what we see is Democrats sweeping all of the elections, and everyone trying to figure out, wow, this is a reaction to Trump, or this is a reaction to the shutdown, or this is a reaction to whatever. Take your pick, right? But notice that each of these elections are within a particular community. So this is not necessarily a national representation. So when we think about this kind of pendulum between the different individuals in conflict, the different self-consciousnesses in conflict, what we see is silos. Again, you use, I think that's an excellent term, because we have New York is New York. New York is actually a Democratic stronghold, and the Democrat would have won probably regardless. Cuomo was actually, well, he was the governor of New York before, and he was sponsored partially, at least, by Trump, but I don't think he
On the very
he
last
wasn't a
day.
Republican. He was an independent.
He had to run as an independent because it's the only
There
way
was
he could run.
there was a Republican actually running, but the Republican got barely no percent.
He never wins.
Yeah, it's New York. So Mamdani is not the swing of the pendulum, meaning that everything in the country is going to start moving
He's not
towards
even a Democrat, he's a socialist.
Democrats. It's within New York. Same thing within Virginia. Same thing within New Jersey. So when you look at these, a lot of people are reacting as if, yay, Democrats, but think about it, these are all silos that were Democratic for the most. Mississippi not. Mississippi went more Democratic now, and the Democrats are predominant now in their House. Interesting. Okay. But so what you see with this is this kind of constant back and forth in consciousness and self-consciousness between social forces, and that includes their beliefs on what is real and what is rational, right? So it's a really big concept, and it clearly involves the social construction of reality, as we call it today, and we accept that. That's part of our contemporary milieu to think of it that way. So Hegel follows Kant, seeking the conditions of rationality. Kant limited such conditions to formal structures of the mind. Hegel extended them to include aspects of historically and socially determined forms of embodied existence, that is, a culture. By the way, Hegel is also the one who gives us history of philosophy. So the way a typical history of philosophy is presented in a Hegelian fashion. The idea that one cultural milieu led almost, logically or almost necessarily to its succeeding culture. That there's progress, and it's a logical kind of progress, that the one kind of social, cultural milieu leads directly to this next one, right? So that you see that kind of history. That is something that is Hegelian, and others will pick that up. So there's lots of that. That continues. Culture is spirit, becomes what is rational truth. And I've been saying this since we started talking about model-dependent reality, which is just one other way of talking about this. The idea that we have these different models. Within the model, there are true and false. So the idea that all this relativity thing means there are no truths, that's false. There are, of course, truths within models. I mean, the model is a structure that everything works within that model, and it succeeds enabling us to predict events. And we have tremendous success with our models. Look at the success that science has. I mean, that's where that goes, right? The fact that we have different models, and you should pick the model you want in order to figure out what's important for your goal. That doesn't mean that the particular models don't have truths. So ignore the folks that think that all of this relativity stuff means that there is no truth. And another way of thinking of that is to say that there is truth for a culture. If you think of a culture as a coherent body of people who believe a certain thing, the things that they believe in agreement with one another, such as all men are created equal, right? You might think of it as a religious kind of statement. Fine, that's all right. Voldemort is evil, that's, if you're going to be part of that, people that like those books, well, you've got to believe that too, right? You can't look at Voldemort and say, but he was really such a nice guy. It was so misunderstood. No, it's not, you'd be kicked out of the group. Let's face it, there's truth in a culture. And truth evolves as a culture evolves. What is woke today? What do we mean by woke? DEI. I mean, for a while you couldn't teach unless you accepted DEI. In fact, I just had to take my mandatory training, which is still woke based.
They all did.
It hasn't been revived or fixed. They probably, and in fact, did anybody see how the Board of Regents reacted to the Trump demand that every university sign his pact, etc.? That was supposed to happen yesterday.
A lot of them didn't sign it.
They didn't sign it?
A lot of them didn't.
So individual regents signed it. A lot of universities signed it.
Washington definitely did not sign it.
Washington University. Penn University didn't. I believe it was Harvard didn't, as far as I know.
There were lawsuits after lawsuits for years.
What was it though?
The mandate directive of no DEI and
All universities have to sign
Especially
these,
university
otherwise
have
no funding for you. And apparently the unions, we have various unions here.
teachers union.
I've been in all of them over the years, which is silly, because for a while I did 300 level courses, so I was in the PhD union, but most of the time I was in the term, so I was doing 200 levels, so I was in the other union, and then as an adjunct, I'm in the adjunct union. So I've been in all three of the faculty unions over the years. It's just part of the silliness of being here. But for 30 years. But, most of the time I was termed and was teaching full-time and 200 level classes, 211, 212, 201. I used to do 301 though. Shoot, why did that come up?
Ask about the Trump thing.
Yeah.
And then the funding.
Yeah, what I mean, it's such an ambiguous document. It seemed to me that anybody could actually sign it and say, "Yeah, we'll do this." Yeah, right. As if that's actually going to change anything we do. Might have to change a few words that you use in your. I think they have to take native out of a lot of things. The word native, you're not supposed to use that. No?
What?
They weren't supposed to use Eskimo.
What?
Eskimo.
Well, My understanding was they agreed right away to remove the word native from it. They still have it on signs and stuff.
They're corporations or they have natives in the title.
Well, that, of course, there's all kinds of problems associated with this, but theoretically,
But I can tell you.
any of that kind of focus, this kind of woke focus towards particular groups,
I mean, like.
that means you're prejudiced against whoever, and you know, because you're focused on them. So you're not supposed to have that kind of focus, according to Trump's
Oh my
dictate,
God.
right?
My boss actually is like a white supremacist and it really is like the bane of my existence. And he like openly says he's a white supremacist. So it's, if I didn't get paid
What
so
does
much
he mean? He? She?
Yeah, well, it's a German mother from Germany, took her kid from Germany to here. Now she's raising him here, but I take care of her. She's like disabled,
Well,
so she's.
what does he mean by white supremacist?
He means that he is a white, like he, like, I don't know how to make it any more plain than that. Like, he literally openly states.
Well, but I mean, the
He
thing
says
is,
that
there are
culture,
actually.
culture and different
Is it
colored
based
people
on the
are
original version
ruining
from Germany?
the whiteness of America.
Oh, he said America, and most people say that the world.
I'm like,
From
you
a
weren't
religious
even, I'm like,
perspective,
I'm
you
like, there
can
were
see
not even
people
white people
saying
here
stuff
at first.
like that.
Like, do you